Jen Wagner says that the big firmware update for the Canon EOS R5, the one mentioned by Canon Rumours back on March the 6th, well, it's going to include dealer meetings and announcements, which his sources say is highly unusual. Details coming up, but first, please do me a favor. Follow me on Twitter, subscribe, share, choose all notifications, like, comment, and all that good stuff. It's really appreciated and it means a lot, but it also helps this channel grow. In a recent video, Jen Wagner said that dealer meetings are planned for the release of the big Canon EOS R5 firmware update that we first heard about from Canon Rumours on March the 6th. Jen goes on to say that his sources say this is very unusual. Well, uncommon, yes, but unusual? Well, all we have to do is go back to the Canon 5D Mark II or even the 7D because, well, Canon in the past has made announcements or held dealer meetings when a big firmware update is planned. But the big point to be made here is that, well, this is a big firmware update. This just confirms what Canon Rumours was telling us, that the Canon EOS R5 firmware update is either going to be big in scope or the number of enhancements to be made, or both. This big firmware update for the Canon EOS R5 is expected to be labeled as firmware 1.8, but if it's big enough, it could get the label as firmware 2.0. So what does the firmware include? Well, according to Canon Rumours on March the 6th, it includes a pre-shooting buffer. It also includes the removal of that 30-minute record limit. Remember that 30-minute record limit that we were supposed to get removed back in 2020? There was an interview done by AV Pro on July the 10th, and a Canon technical representative said, yes, it's going to be removed, but didn't give any specifics. And, well, if it is removed in this firmware update, well, that'll prove correct. But yeah, they didn't give us any specifics and timeline. And what else is going to be included in this firmware update? Well, according to what Canon Rumours is saying, improvements to autofocus tracking in modes planes, trains, and bikes, as well as additional tracking for, well, other animals. So that's impressive. And of course, we get that lens breathing correction. Now, the lens breathing correction and the pre-shooting buffer, those are capabilities that we see in the Canon EOS R6 Mark II. We're currently on firmware 1.7, and one could easily argue that we've had, well, many significant firmware updates in the past in terms of scope and the number of enhancements. Firmware 1.6, for example, didn't have many enhancements and fixes. You can just see 4 listed here. But that first one, adds auto power off temp, that's huge because by setting it to high, you no longer have to worry about overheating on the Canon EOS R5 when you're shooting movies, when you're shooting 8K RAW, regardless of how long you shoot, whether you're shooting 4K HQ, which is Canon's 8K over sample 4K mode and 24, 25, and 30 frames per second. With that selected, we were able to shoot on this channel over 2.5 hours with no sign of overheating in 70 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and the Def Director was able to shoot all the way up to 96 degrees without any signs of overheating. Now in 4K 120, yes, we did get overheating, but firmware 1.5 was huge, not only in terms of what it added, but the number of enhancements. It's known as the autofocus update. You can see in points 2 that it adds vehicle detection to the autofocus system. So whether you're driving a motorcycle, whether you're driving motorsports, it's able to lock onto the driver whether the driver's wearing a helmet or not. It adds support to various lenses, it adds supports to torso detection, many other capabilities in terms of autofocus. And of course, if you look at number 7, this is great. It basically adds the ability to dual record to both card slots at the same time, with the exception of 8K All-I or 8K RAW. And in firmware 1.4, we had the ability to now record 8K 30 frames per second 10-bit 422 Apple ProRes RAW externally to an Atomos Ninja 5 Plus recorder. So what was the point of showing you these 3 firmware updates? Why not show you the firmware update 1.3 where we had Canon Log 3 and the Cinema Gamut? Well, simply put, it shows you the scope of these firmware updates, the scope in terms of the number of enhancements, but also the types of enhancements provided. Because I could easily justify Canon doing some sort of dealer meeting or announcements alongside these firmware updates as well, but they didn't. In fact, Canon hasn't provided any dealer meeting or announcement with any of these firmware updates since the camera was released back in July of 2020. And so what I'm getting at here is I think that this firmware update is going to be so big, bigger than what Canon's teasing us at. And yes, I know, removing that 30-minute record limit is a big deal, and it's going to be welcome for many, but that alone in itself doesn't make it any bigger than firmware 1.3, or firmware 1.4, firmware 1.5, or especially firmware 1.6, where that whole overheating that's plagued the camera since it first came out completely disappeared. Now, I suspect that firmware 1.8 or maybe 2.0, if it's going to be called that, because if it's going to be that big, it's going to get dealer announcements, and why not call it firmware 2.0? Will Canon finally remove that 30-minute record limit? What other stills and video capabilities can we expect to get from this firmware update? I just don't know at this point, but I'm getting pretty excited because if we're getting a dealer meeting, if we're getting some sort of announcement alongside this, where we haven't had it any time in the past with any of the other previous firmware updates, and remember, removing that overheat limit, to me, that's far bigger than removing a 30-minute record limit, because that 30-minute record limit could always be, well, dealt with using a Ninja 5, but that overheat, it could be moderated with the Ninja 5, but it certainly couldn't be eliminated. All the enhancements to the video capabilities, all the enhancements to the autofocus system, they were very, very big updates. What do you think we'll see in this big Canon EOS R5 firmware update? Will it be called Firmware 1.8 or Firmware 2.0? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and let's hope that this video helps further shake the rumor tree. But that's it for now. If you want to stay up to date on all the latest camera news and rumors, go ahead and subscribe and choose all notifications. By choosing all notifications, as soon as I publish a new video like this one here, well, you'll get notified so that way you can stay up to date on all the latest camera news and rumors, and you can comment first. But don't forget to check your spam filter or junk folder, because sometimes these notifications from YouTube, they send out an awful lot every day. Sometimes they're trapped and put there, so make sure they're not in there. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. Have yourself a great weekend, and I hope to see you again soon.